Jane, your view on the next couple of days, what are you looking for?
Well, of course, the next couple of days is one thing, but the medium term is quite another. And I think we can tell by the value of the pound up at 130 this morning that the market is optimistic. Now, it's optimistic because when that vote did go through in Parliament on Saturday, and this was the vote on the left-wing amendment, well, the vote was quite close. And then the market is inferring from that, of course, that Boris Johnson could have the numbers in place to push his deal through when it does get placed in front of the Commons, whenever that might be. But, of course, this is one thing. We might know that a no deal is off the table for now, for October the 31st, or after, say, a short extension if the EU grants that. But what happens at the end of the end of next year? Now, of course, assuming there is a deal, we know we then launch into trade talks with the EU, and the 64-page agreement that Boris Johnson has got with the EU, the forward-looking part, the non-legally binding part, looks ahead to what sort of arrangement that may be. But, as one of the Labour politicians pointed out during Saturday's debate, if those trade negotiations don't go well, there is the possibility that we could still be forced into a no-deal Brexit at the end of next year. So for sterling, I think that's why there is still the possibility of an awful lot of volatility in the months ahead, because assuming this deal does get through soon, the market's then going to be focusing on those trade negotiations, and we don't know exactly how they will go. So, Jane, this is really, really important. Since the start of September, cable has moved 10 figures from in at around 120 to in at around 130. And the consensus view is basically that over the last 5-6 weeks, the chances of a hard Brexit have diminished, and cable has a new home in and around 130. Are you pushing back against that, Jane? Well, not in the short term. I think in the short term, assuming that we're not going to get that hard deal, and the Ben Act has seen that we won't get a hard Brexit soon, assuming that the withdrawal agreement is passed through Parliament in the next few days, or maybe the next couple of weeks, then we are likely to see beyond 130, 132, maybe even towards 135. But I'm a bit worried about what's going to happen in 2020. I'm a little bit worried about the trade talks. If they don't go well with the EU, there will be an election between now and then. It is possible that Boris Johnson does well in that election, and we get quite a Brexiteer government with perhaps a majority or close to majority. If those trade talks don't go too well next year, we don't know that a hard Brexit will definitely not happen at the end of the transition period, which kicks in, of course, after the start of Brexit and the end of next year.